Hey everyone, and welcome to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and as always, I am joined by the very curly-haired Tara.
Greetings, citizens.
There was a second there where you realised I was about to use an adjective or two that you were like, am I going to be mad at him for this? And I think I successfully navigated the waters and gave you an innocent descriptor.
It is very curly. I got a new shampoo today. Working.
See, clearly I'm noticing because I mentioned it. So
yeah, well done.
We talk about sci-fi movies here. We talk about science fiction films, and we do that every week. This episode, we're going to talk about War of the Worlds. You're probably thinking to yourself, wait a minute.
What? We just did that.
We did that last week, exactly. However, this is War of the Worlds 2005. This is the Steven Spielberg directed remake, and we're going to get into it. So we'll start spoiler free as we always do. We'll give you warning in the middles before we go into spoilers, and that's what we're going to do. So,
did you know that there was like a War of the Worlds miniseries right now, or this year?
I did, and me and Connor considered checking it out and reviewing it, but it aired early because it's a BBC like co-production or whatever. So it aired like months ago in the UK, and I never saw it, but apparently it was like really bad.
Oh really?
so once I heard that, I was like, you know what? Yeah, we don't have to do it. We could just back away slowly. It's fine.
I didn't hear that part. When I was looking up the movie, I was like, oh, there's something more recent and like super popular.
Yeah, movies from the 2000s are annoying me right now because every time I'm watching one, it's making me feel old because War of the Worlds, this movie is now 14 years old, and it feels like it just came out. I feel like the War of the Worlds remake is a few years ago. That's what it feels like, but it's 14 years.
Yeah, but we know Dakota Fanning's like a young adult now, so seeing her as a child is like, oh yeah, I guess that was a while ago.
Yeah, but Tom Cruise hasn't aged, and that so it's
no, he's got that Scientology magic.
So it's hard to quantify these things. It's because there was a weird statistic. I think this was from earlier this year, maybe last year. I mean, I'm not a Grand Theft Auto player, but I still, because they're so big, I'm aware of them existing and coming out. Right. We're at a point now where it's been longer since Grand Theft Auto Vice City came out than it had been from the 80s when Vice City came out. Which is insane.
Wasn't that PlayStation 3?
2.
Vice City?
2. PlayStation 2.
Oh. Yeah. Well, PlayStation 2 feels like a long time ago.
Well, it is, but like the 80s felt like a long time ago when I was growing up, and that was before we even hit 2000.
I guess that's true, yeah.
And all of a sudden, like there's actually been more time since I felt that way than it was at the time since the 80s. I don't know. I'm getting old, and it's just
happens to the best of us. Not me, but like other people. I stay young forever because I use expensive shampoos.
I don't want to get in trouble, so I'll simply say yes, Tara.
Yes.
And we will move on to talk about the War of the Worlds. So I guess first thing about this movie is I did see this. I saw this once. I didn't see it in theaters, but I saw it like soon after it came out. Maybe a year later, maybe less than a year. Probably it was probably when it was hitting cable or whatever at the time. Is this one you've seen? I mean, I know you've seen it, but is this one that you've seen like much since?
Yeah, I saw it in the theaters, and I hadn't seen it since then. But I remember really liking it when I saw it.
Yeah, so
because of this is like peak disaster movie era.
Yeah,
this is a big disaster film. So I did like it when I saw it.
Yes, but I guess the real question is, how do you feel now?
I still like it.
Okay.
It's not great.
Yeah, it's not.
I still like it. Like there's a lot of really great scenes. But as a movie goes, like the first half I think is like really, really good. And then like things slow down a bit.
There,
And then like the characters have weird decisions and
okay, first things first. I want to tell people at home that you're not hearing weird things. I think that's Tara's dog drinking some water or licking.
she's looking at my hand.
Licking, yes, there was some hot tongue action coming from somewhere.
Oh yeah.
But
That's my girl.
But I just wanted to let everyone know because I could hear it in my head, and I was like, "Wait a minute, I need to acknowledge this." People are going to be wondering what the hell that is.
Yeah. If you want to see her, I'll show.
Oh God, why are you doing this? Every time you move the camera, bad things start happening. This is not good. See, like you're flashing.
My doggy, she's so sweet.
Yes, but the flashing will persist. Look at it. All right, so I forgot what I was going to say. You've completely threw me off track. No, I agree. I agree that there's good scenes. There's lots of good moments in this movie. I'm not entirely convinced all of it holds together completely well, and I feel like there's like it's got kind of a statement here because what it's trying to be essentially is like we're not going to focus on the army, we're not going to focus on the people making decisions or like, you know, how do we combat the aliens, right? We focus on Tom Cruise and his family, his 2 kids.
Quite frankly, they make a lot of changes that you recommended in our last review.
Yes, no, they do, and for the most part I think that's a good thing. But at the same time, there's some weird like oddities that are there. For example, despite the fact that like clearly the feeling this movie wants is to like, okay, we're just following this family, so we're never going to get the big picture. We're only going to follow them, and we're just going to like have them like run into things as they come, and it's going to be this series of just disaster moments after disaster moments, and the quiet beats in between. It's just going to be that. But like one of the big things that I'm going to make fun of in this movie is that there's one of the most obnoxiously inserted like exposition dumps I've ever seen. I'd completely forgotten about this, but randomly about 45 minutes into the movie, there's like a news reporter van who just like they run into, and for some reason this news reporter decides to like give him like a speech and show him like even videotape that they've got, like, hey, look at this, and like, why are you telling Tom Cruise this? He's just a civilian, he's a random person. Yeah. Why are you telling him all these things?
Well, he is handsome.
Well, yeah, if she tried to stick around, maybe I'd accept that, but no, she drives off with her van like immediately after. Like, it's just such a awkward, it's like, and none of it's really that important for us following the story, really. Like, it's all just like, it's all extra stuff for the sci-fi part of it, but ultimately we could just not know this stuff and it'd be fine.
Yeah, and it's after a really, really great set piece too, with the airplane.
Yeah,
so cool.
So like, it's kind of weird. Obviously the disaster stuff for the most part works quite well. It does go a bit over the top in moments. There's definitely a couple of moments where I felt like, yeah, you're doing this to do this disaster porn, not because this is necessarily the right thing to do in the moment, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of like post 9/11 like parallels here with the dust and like I think I read that Spielberg was inspired by all like the footage on the ground of the disaster or the terrorist attack, and wanted to make this movie from that perspective because all that footage was like a really interesting perspective of witnessing a disaster.
I mean, hell, there's even a line that calls out to the fact that this is kind of a post 9/11 movie. At one point, Dakota Fanning actually says, "Is it the terrorists or the terrorists here?"
Yeah.
She actually says that out loud. So the illusions.
Yeah, I think a lot of her character comes from like her living in New York post 9/11, very recently after too. I think that's where like her anxiety comes from also.
So I mean that's very there. It's very in your face. Although just to bring up, because you mentioned there's a lot of like dust and stuff and smoke as they're like running around, I will say the effects in this movie for the most part hold up fairly well. I will say the one thing that doesn't for me, something that's really become a pet peeve of mine when it comes to CG, is the CGI dust and smoke that's in the foreground. It really sticks out to me as being separate from everything underneath it, and there was a lot of that in this movie. So that was kind of bugging me. I
didn't really notice that. I noticed like the daylight scenes were like super bright.
Well, they were, which I actually don't dislike necessarily, because I feel like this movie has
I mean, it was okay. I just noticed it.
It has a very gritty kind of like look to it. If it looks like it's almost like Spielberg intentionally wanted it to look like real footage as opposed to a movie. He wants it to look like something. No, someone's just like captured this, like on their camera on the ground level. It's almost like he wanted that feel to it, and it has that kind of almost documentary kind of feeling to how it looks at times, which I actually think is fine. It gives it a distinct feeling that it's very different to the original, and
yeah, definitely.
Even just not even just to the original.
Tripods this time too. That's cool.
It's very.
I think the design of the tripods are awesome.
It's very different though to even. I'm still talking about the look, by the way. It's very different to even like other movies of the time. It doesn't look like other disaster movies that came out in the mid 2000s.
I actually thought it looked like a lot like a 50s movie, like a 50s alien film, except with a budget and better effects. Maybe it's just the style. I don't know. Something about it like seemed like an older movie than it was.
I never felt that because there's a lot of handheld, and old movies like that don't have handheld. Like the original War of the Worlds, like I would almost guess that there's not a frame of handheld camera in that movie, whereas this movie loves the shaky camera. It loves the handheld and the frantic, and we're running from things and we're seeing things just barely in the corner of the frame, and we're like, there's a lot of that in this. And but
I don't know. I don't know why I didn't. What it is about it when I was watching it, it just seemed like the type of movie that doesn't get made. Like it doesn't remind me of like Black Hawk Down, like that kind of a war film or anything with a lot of handheld and shaky cam stuff like that. It still reminded me of like an older film, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm seeing things that aren't there.
I don't know exactly, because to me it was very of its time. Like I can see the 2000s all over this, for better and worse. Like this is both good and bad that comes with that. The visual style is very distinct though, which is good. The disaster stuff is very much of the era, and then it goes over the top, because there was definitely points where there was destruction was happening, and there'd be like semi, like tankers and stuff like flipping, and I'm like, okay, you got a bit nuts with this, just for the flipping and the things blowing up and destruction, like you want things happening.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we reviewed the Lost World, another Spielberg movie, and some of the like disaster stuff kind of reminded me like scenes from there a bit. There's one with like a train on fire, like okay. but I do, for the most part, like the beginning disaster stuff where everyone's just kind of like frantic and what's that, like he's trying to like find his family and be like a dad for the weekend, not get his kids killed until he can pass them back on to his mom, is like all that stuff with the disaster going on around him, I thought was really good. I like all the storm and the lightning effects. I love the design of the ships and when they first show up, and it's just later on where things kind of get a bit cheesy and the pacing gets strange. It's like everything before the news, that news crew team is almost flawless, but everything after that has a lot.
It's very simple. It's a very simple idea where the things just start happening and he has to react, and chaos just ensues.
And I found myself like really like white knuckled tense during those opening scenes.
I mean, it does have the problem where they get just too lucky too often. Like, it has that thing where it's constantly like they're just
people are like getting turned to dust like all around them, but not Tom Cruise.
Yeah, like and it's fine to a point, but there's definitely like by the time we get to the end of the movie, there's been like so many situations where he's just luckily not been the one that's targeted, or he's just luckily been the one that's in the right spot, to not to die. And don't get me wrong, that's fine. You want to make it feel like it's dangerous and it could happen at any time. But we also know he's not going to die. Like, I mean, maybe towards the end, maybe I mean, it doesn't obviously. I mean, we're not in spoilers yet, but it's possible theoretically in a movie like this that maybe the hero dad will sacrifice himself to save the kids or something. And like the final big last hurrah, but not in the opening act. Not like we're not going to do that.
Well, no, but I don't know. I was still like the car chase in the beginning where he's in the van and like going through traffic. That stuff was really good, like a really tense scene. Even with the screaming children.
Yes, screaming children. I will say some of the character like choices and decisions in the second half do make me scratch my head a little bit. There's some stuff.
Yeah,
with
there's like a weird character just all of a sudden they want to do this and that's the only thing they want to do, and they just ignore everything else around them.
The teenage son is pretty bad in this movie because he doesn't
I don't think it's like the actor's fault, even though I know he's not the beloved actor. I think it's just poorly written.
Yeah, I'm not saying the actor that is bad. I'm saying just conceptually what he's doing doesn't make much sense. He has this really weird notion that to join the army, all you have to do is run up and jump on one of the army trucks, and that's you're in the army. I'm like, that's not how it works.
I mean, yeah, they do take volunteers, but you still have to like go through training. It's not just, oh, you want to volunteer? Here's a gun.
Yeah, also, he's like under 18, right? He's like 16, 17, supposedly. He's still in high school.
Yes.
He's got a paper to hand in.
I couldn't tell because they said they pay for his school, so I guess maybe he goes to private school then, or
I was thinking
or
that.
college. Those are the two options.
No, I think it's a private high school. For some reason, the way he was, that it didn't strike me as college aged. I think he was being played purely as high school aged. I mean, as much.
Yeah, I guess if he was college and like his dad had visitation rights and he didn't want to go, then he would have the power to say, I'm not going, I'm an adult.
Oh, exactly, yeah. You don't need visitation rights for an 18-year-old. Like, once they're 18, they can just choose to come or not.
So it must be like private school then.
Yeah. Which the stepdad pays for, as they point out. So it's some weird beats like that throughout. The ending, despite the fact that like the original War of the Worlds had kind of the same ending, right? And as much as I like in theory what the ending's doing, I don't think it works completely well in either movie. Like both it feels kind of like, oh, okay, Deus Ex Machina. There is, it's fine. And what's strange is they've got Morgan Freeman doing narration at the start and the end, and it's mimicking kind of what the original movie did. Although notably in this one, it doesn't cut to like actual surface shots of like Venus and Mars and even Jupiter.
No, but it does cut to a shot of Earth, and then the Earth kind of turns red. But instead of it being red from Mars, it's red because of what the aliens are going to do to it and stuff like that. But it still has like a space shot. Like, we didn't know that we were being watched, and then it would have like scenes of people in different cultures and stuff like that. I don't know. Do you not remember?
No, I remember.
It still was very reminiscent of the last movie.
No, I said it was in the style of, but I just said notably it doesn't do the surface shots of all these other planets because it knows it's all bullshit. So it wasn't going to.
We don't have like the volcanoes on Venus.
Yes.
Or the colonies on Mars.
Actually, no, I believe
but they're not Martians in this movie.
No. It wasn't volcanoes on Venus. Venus actually has volcanoes. It was volcanoes on Jupiter, which is why it was extremely stupid.
I don't remember.
We had the conversation like 3 days ago.
Yeah, they actually record these episodes pretty close to each other this time.
Yeah. So... Yeah, weird, but the point I was making though is that at the end when he's doing the narration, he once again says something about God put this thing here, and I'm like, this feels really weird in this movie. There's been nothing in the movie thematically to kind of lead to his little speech at the end, the way it kind of comes across.
You mean the Morgan Freeman one?
Yeah, the Morgan Freeman speech.
Well, it's the exact same speech because it's taken from the book.
Yeah, okay, but still, it's not justified in the movie. I don't care if it's from the book.
All right.
No, I'm serious. Like, you have to justify it in the work itself. You can't just, it matches the book, therefore it's valid. That's not true at all. Like, if the movie's changed enough that it doesn't make sense, then you can't just use it. Well,
this adaptation, I think, isn't it more faithful? I mean, with the exception of the time era.
I have no idea. I've never read the book. But I mean, regardless, it may be more faithful, it may not be, but like I don't feel like the speech at the end that Morgan Freeman gives matches the tone or anything that happens in this movie. I also don't really love the alien design. Is that spoilery? I don't think it's spoiler to say that there's alien designs in it.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. I thought they would look cooler. They kind of look like the aliens in Independence Day.
Yeah, I can see that.
But like smaller, or like the alien queen, but like smaller.
Yeah, no, that inspired. The honestly, I feel like the even the ships for me, I wasn't like completely in love with it, because as much as obviously it looks more realistic to the original film, like I feel like the original film, I can picture the ships, or the tripods in my head really easily. I can picture what they look like, and it's really distinct. And this movie,
Well, they're not tripods. They're like swan shaped.
sure,
The cobra head thing, which makes an appearance in this film too. But I like the look of the tripods in this movie, and they had all those different cobra attachments that made it look organic. I just didn't care for the alien design. I don't know. Like, the hand is okay, or whatever, when you see the hand. Yeah. But
yeah. It was just, I don't know, it was just something kind of like I never got a good look at the head of it, like the tripods. Like, I never got a good look to really get the shape of it. It always kind of felt like I was seeing it from an angle, so that I never really like.
I guess it's true. I mean, because we are seeing it from the ground.
Yeah. So I never.
There's a pretty good scene on the hill where you can see them coming over. There's like 3 of them at one point.
Yeah, well, one small clip. It's kind of, it's of this era though, where everything had to be kind of grey and dull. Like, that was kind of the like, we're not allowed to have any kind of design. I mean, don't get me wrong, it kind of fits the color palette of the movie. Like, I can't really complain that much about it. But it left me feeling like, okay, these aren't iconic designs that are going to stick out and people are going to remember that well. They felt kind of like, yeah, they work for the movie, but they're not something that everyone's going to be like putting on posters and t-shirts and stuff, kind of thing. Which,
yeah, I guess. I just didn't really like the designs of the last film very much. So maybe I like that they're tripods in this one.
That's fair. So,
and that they're so big. They're like massive.
We should probably talk about the cat. I mean, Tom Cruise is Tom Cruise. His character's kind of a dick. Like, he's
a bad dad.
He's a bad dad. Although he's not, like, this is the thing. I actually, even though he's a bad dad, I do think there was a little bit of unjustified, like, grief going his way early on in the film.
I think I do find him sympathetic, because you could tell he's really trying, and his kids just resent him too much. Yeah, to not let his trying, like,
well, not even the kids. Like, before that, like with the mom and the stepdad, like, they're mad at him for being a little bit late, right? He's like 30 minutes late.
Yeah.
Right, and they're mad at him for it, and now, whether or not you believe that he thought it was 30 minutes earlier and he just got the time wrong or whatever, fine, whatever. But this is the thing: it's not like he comes rolling in after being out like all night with friends or whatever, right? He
came back from work.
He came right from work, and we actively see him fight his like boss to not give him like this extra shift or whatever over the weekend so that he can still hang out with his kids, and they give him like so much shit for it. And I'm just kind of like, they give him, well, I say so much shit, they give him a look, right? They give him a sort of like, yeah, okay, heard this before, like,
yeah, like, I think it's more of like a, you don't respect us enough to get the time right.
Yeah, there's an attitude, but I'm like, to be fair, he did just come from, like, he came straight here from work, like I
think he's, even though he's like not very good at being a dad, like, he's still sympathetic when you watch him. And even his kids are like, they're a lot.
Yeah, he's sympathetic to a point. There's definitely some peanut butter related outbursts which felt a bit childish, for lack of a better,
I don't know, I like that scene,
lack of a better word.
I like most of the scenes with the kids and the family, like, in the first half, and then in the second half it's like, why are they making this decision? Why are they so dumb?
I'm okay with a lot of it. I do think that Spielberg went a bit far with the peanut butter thing, because after he throws the peanut butter like bread at the window and it's kind of sliding down the window, there's like a really dramatic shot looking at the reflection of the window with the peanut butter sandwich kind of sliding down like in the foreground, and I just felt like, all right, Spielberg, you're overdoing it a little bit.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I didn't think so.
It's a little bit too much.
He was frustrated, and I was frustrated for him because his kids were just like,
No. I'm not talking
not
about.
getting that he's trying.
No, I'm not talking about the act of doing it. I'm talking about the way it's shot.
The peanut butter sandwich sliding down the window.
Yeah, but it's like he's shooting a reflection of Tom Cruise on the window, and the peanut butter sandwich is in the foreground of the reflection going down. Like, it was this really dramatic shot, as if to really emphasize how important the peanut butter sandwich sliding down the window was. I don't know. It was a bit on the nose and cheesy for me.
Okay. I liked it.
Okay, all right. I thought it was a bit much. That's all I'm saying.
I like a lot of the, I don't know, I like a lot of the family scenes, which I'm sure people don't, because the kids are irritating, but I think it's important that they're irritating in the beginning. And in the end, they're irritating because, I don't know, the son like goes into a trance a couple times when he sees like military people, and you're like, what is wrong with you? But, yeah, I really like, there's one scene with Dakota Fanning's in like the back of a car, and she's confused as to what's going on, and like she starts welling up, and she's like about to burst into tears, and that scene like really got me emotionally.
Yeah, her acting for the most part is pretty good. There's one scene in this though that I think she's terrible in, and I don't know if it's her fault. I honestly think it's her fault, but
I mean, she's great. She's always been great, even when she was little.
Yeah. But, you know, and then Tim Robbins has a role in here, which we can't really talk about too much until spoilers, but, you know, we have Morgan.
It's not my favorite part.
We have Morgan Freeman narrating, we've got Tim Robbins. It's almost like a sequel to Shawshank, just
Almost, yeah.
in a weird way. Aliens showed up. But, yeah, so I think we'll give the spoiler warning, and we can start.
You know, David Harbour's in this cast too, but I didn't see him.
Yeah, I didn't see him either. And he'll be so much younger that it may be hard to spot. Although who I did spot actually was I don't know the actor's name, but one of the guys that Tom Cruise talks to in the street early on as everything's kind of starting to happen. Plays Renee in Arrow. He's been in all things. He was in Mr. Robot as well in season 1. So, all right, full spoilers then for War of the Worlds 2005. Before we start the spoiler section, though, let me take this time to thank you, our Patreon producers for the month. So, thank you to David Short, Alison M. Fordyce, Cindy Palacios, and Tyler Hest. Patreon producers are $20 or above patrons over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Tara, why don't you tell everyone about Patreon?
Yeah. Well, you just gave the address, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You don't have to donate $20. If you get just $1 donated, then you can check out our library of bonus movies. You'll get that for the dollar. It's Time Cop, Judge Dredd, Trancers, Robo Vampire, all the good stuff that you would watch on Mystery Science Theater. So check it out.
Also, you never said Trancers Saga, which really caught me off guard.
The Trancers Saga.
Also,
yeah.
You sounded so upset that I'd said the address before
It's
I
true.
had it over to you.
I have like a script in my mind.
Which is why you acknowledged that I said it already and then said it again anyway, because otherwise it'd throw you off. It's fine. You can never reiterate.
I don't yes and, okay?
Okay. Well, you can never reiterate the address too many times. It's fine. Patreon.com/MailFuzzTVs. Good to know.
That's right. That's patreon.com/MailFuzzTV.
I don't know if I did it a fourth time. That was maybe a bit much, Tara. Calm down.
Oh, come on.
All right, so full spoilers for War of the Worlds. The movie, let me say, starts with the Morgan Freeman intro with the going to the traffic light, you know, from the red planet to whatever. And we're introduced to Tom Cruise. He's late. The wife is pissed at him, or the ex-wife, I should say, is pissed at him. And you know, the kids are still sharing a room, which is kind of weird because he's like 17, the boy, and the girl's like 10. You know, so which is important. Those ages are important for later, because Tom Cruise brings up a very good point when arguing with his son later. So yeah, so we see that, you know, Tom Cruise is kind of a dick, but he's trying, and the kids, you know, the son's definitely a dick as well. Clearly it runs in the family. Daughter's doing her best to be okay with it. But did you get a kick out of when he wakes up? Because he tells the daughter to order food for dinner, because he has nothing in the kitchen, and he tries some of what she ordered, and he's like, "What the hell is this?" And she's like, "It's hummus. I got it from the health place." And I thought of Tara during this scene.
I do love hummus.
Yes,
but most people like hummus. I bet Tom Cruise likes hummus. He just wasn't expecting it, so it was like, beans. I don't want beans. I thought there's cheese or something.
I've never had hummus. I have no opinion on hummus, but
it's chickpeas. It's chickpeas and like tahini blended together. It's delicious.
I kind of know what tahini is. What is tahini?
They are ground up sesame seeds.
Okay. Look, hummus is not a thing here. Okay, I've never seen hummus as an option. Never tried it.
Mediterranean, Indian, maybe. I'm not sure.
All right. Well, Dakota Fanning likes hummus in the movie,
Right.
and the teenage boy's missing. Tom Cruise is pissed about it. He goes outside, and right around then is when the first big stuff starts happening, because there's lightning storms, and it's weird because the storm is blowing towards the middle of the wind is blowing towards the storm. You know, it's like blowing in the way to the epicenter, which is kind of strange, and there's these weird lightning strikes, and you know what's about to happen because Dakota Fanning's getting scared, and Tom Cruise is like, "Hey, don't worry, that lightning was really close, but it never strikes in the same place twice." And as soon as he says that again, because of course it does,
He's like, "All right, let's get inside."
Yeah.
They both hide under the table.
This is also why he's a terrible dad, because his daughter's getting scared, and he's like, "Oh, this is cool, isn't it? Yeah, let's just stay out here and watch the lightning." Like it takes like him almost being struck by lightning himself before he goes, "You know what? Yeah, should probably get inside."
Yeah.
Should probably just go in. So he leaves her inside and goes searching for answers on the street, and there's just like people walking around, and all the cars are broken down. And he suggests a fix to like the mechanic who works down the street, which is notable for later. And he ends up in the town square. He's got a couple of sort of local guys that he knows, and they're checking things out. And it really does have that feeling of everyone in the community is just kind of like looking for what's just happened, like cause something's happened nearby, and they all come to this place where there's a hole in the ground, and we get the big scene of like the concrete starts crumbling and it sort of implodes, and then eventually obviously the tripod comes out. For the most part,
there's a really cool scene of a church like splitting in half and it's starting to rotate.
Yeah, it's almost like it's on a perfect disc as well. It's just, it starts circling. It's almost like what's the
like
thing?
a Lazy Susan or something. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, but the visuals here are pretty good. I like I say, the church is pretty nice. The concrete sort of splitting's pretty good. It has that disaster movie thing where it almost feels like it's following Tom Cruise, so he's just constantly running into it. If you have to forgive that a little bit, but other than that, this is all pretty solid stuff. I do like that they brought the death beams back, and that once the tripod's up, it just starts beaming people into dust to the point where Tom Cruise actually gets covered in dust, like he's get covered in like human dust.
Yeah.
But there's a lot.
And that was the thing from like from 9/11 too, when people were like covered in dust all the time, and like the trauma of just being covered in like dust and not human remains in this case, but just like the death of everything and what that represented. And then, but for Tom Cruise, it was actual just human remain dust that he had covered in him. So when he goes home and they're like, "What's that stuff on you?" and he like freaks out and jumps in the shower with his clothes on or whatever. And
it's like he's not realized yet until he's asked. Like he's not realized. He's too busy like running for survival to notice that he's covered in human dust until he has a moment to slow down. But all this is handheld. There's a lot of like trying to run around corners. There's running through the department store at one point, but it's still beaming people. And this is where it's a little bit like, okay, it's literally hitting people on either side of him, but just doesn't go for him. Like there's no reason why he should be immune to this. So, which is fine to a point, because it's like, okay, it's just luck, right? Because it seems to be picking people at random. He just got lucky. So
yeah, we see this in like war movies all the time.
Oh sure, yeah.
People getting picked off around our main guy, but our main guy makes it through.
Yeah. So you just have to accept that it happens in movies, but it did stick out to me a little bit in this because it happens all the way through the movie. Like he's just constantly not being targeted or grabbed or whatever.
It seems like he is being targeted because they keep following him everywhere he goes.
Okay, he's being targeted. He's being targeted to scare him. Like they want to scare him, but they don't actually want to kill him yet. They're playing with their food, I guess. If you want to put it that way.
Yes.
So he gets home. The teenage son does show up again round about here, and he's like, "No, we need to go. Pack food, pack stuff. We're leaving." And he steals the car that the mechanic was working on because his suggestion to fix it worked. So they've got the one working car in the vicinity, and the mechanic tries to argue with him, but he gets zapped, and he's like, "Poof!" He's gone. He's gone. So Tom Cruise is driving his family around all these parked cars. I say, well, not even parked. They've just stopped. They're just stopped in the road.
Everything's stalled. Anything electronic doesn't work anymore. So even their watches have all stopped.
So he's just zigzagging. He's just zigzagging around. And I don't remember them bringing up the watches in this movie, but I very clearly remember the scene in the original where they all, because that's basically one of the big things they had. It was almost a big set piece in the original. It was like, oh, our watches have all stopped. Oh, this is very weird. Oh, watches all stopped.
Yeah, it's when Tom Cruise is like, he opens the fridge and then he checks like the flip phone he has, and then when he opens the flip phone, he checks his watch, and it's like, oh, the watch is also stopped.
Yeah.
Up in my monitor.
So they're driving, and there's a whole thing where Dakota Fanning's screaming. She doesn't know what's happening. I think this is around about the time that scene that you like. I think it's when the mechanics arguing.
The scene when they're taking the van.
Yeah. When the mechanics arguing with Tom Cruise, and she doesn't understand why her dad is put her in this car, why he's trying to steal it. Because to be fair, Tom Cruise is telling them to get in. He's like, no, get in. Let's go. Like, seriously. And it's only when the mechanic doesn't, like, is not willing to do that. He's like, well, shut the door then. Leave us alone. Like, go away. But he does actually try to offer to take him with them. To be fair. So
it's not really the mechanic's van anyway. Like, he's like, this is for a customer. Like,
yeah.
You're going to die if you don't get in this van.
Yeah. So they're on their way to their mum's house with a stepdad. Of course, their mum and stepdad aren't there because they're in Boston visiting their grandparents. So they end up at their house, and there's no one there. This is where we get the infamous peanut butter scene, where Tom Cruise is making them peanut butter sandwiches, and Dakota Fanning's like, "I'm allergic to peanuts." And he's like, "Since when?" Birth.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of just built up frustration that he's trying to do the right thing. He's trying to be a good dad, but he just doesn't have the basics down, and his kids already don't really see him as respectable. So it's hard for them to respect him now when he needs them to listen to him. Yeah, it's a running thing throughout the movie that, there's various points where Dakota Fanning like goes to hug her brother instead of her dad for like safety. It happens a lot throughout the movie. Actually, I don't remember when she's freaking out in the back of the van. They do this like ritual thing because she gets claustrophobic. He says,
I don't know if it's before they get to the house or after they get to. No, it must be before. No, because it's still in the car afterwards, so it could be after as well. But I'll mention it here. It's the scene where they stop because she needs to pee, and probably one of my favourite moments of the whole movie is when she goes to the side of a river, and we just see like all the dead bodies floating down the river.
Yeah.
And there's the glistening, because the really harsh daylight's glistening on them. It's really kind of horrific and kind of like, it's probably the best sort of like atmosphere the movie ever gets is this moment.
It's very like, oh yeah, there's Spielberg. You're good at this stuff.
I mean, there's an answer to this, but I will just throw out here that I've thought of this. Is that technically speaking, the aliens don't really leave bodies behind, so Obviously, these could be collateral bodies from like a plane crash or something. Like there could be a number of things why this.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think it's worth pointing out that technically speaking, there shouldn't necessarily be a lot of dead bodies because the aliens either vaporize them or, as we see later, kidnap for.
Well, they also like
processing.
destroy a bridge. I mean, like you said, it could just be bodies from that. Like, who knows?
Yeah, if it feels weird to say collateral because it's not really collateral in the sense, and that they're just killing everyone, but not direct kills, more just people who have died in the carnage. So I mean, it's explainable, but I'm just it was something I just thought of as I was saying that I liked that moment. I'm like, yeah, but technically there shouldn't be bodies given the aliens,
I thought of the same thing when I watched that part. Like, this is cool, but I thought they vaporized the victims. But then we see later on, like, people drowning. So there's a lot of damage that happens that is not directly from the laser heat ray beams. So
that said, though, that's one of my favorite moments of the movie. One of my least favorite moments of the movie comes right after that moment, where and this is the scene where I think Dakota Fanning, and not necessarily her fault, but her character just yells over and over again at the dad as the dad and brother are fighting with each other, and he's like saying how they should go find the army and try and help or whatever. Because I think they see like a truck go by in the distance or something like that.
I think a truck goes by on the road when he picks her up, and they go back to the van, and then you can see all the National Guard people coming through. So
it's the thing. I don't know if it's this scene because there's like a few of these arguments in the movie, so they all kind of blur together. But the older brother's like, oh, we should do something. We shouldn't be a coward like you and try to run. We should be helping. And Tom Cruise rightly points out, what, you want your 10-year-old sister to help join the fight? That's a pretty valid point. Your younger sister can't really help that much. I mean, you technically are still slightly too young yourself, but okay, you're in the ballpark. Fair enough. You're big enough that you think you can help. Your 10-year-old sister's petrified. She's crying and screaming and like pissing the bed at night. She is like, she can't help. She needs to be taken care of. So.
And clearly, the dad is not the one to do it at this point, anyway.
So this is probably the biggest problem in the movie for me. Is every single time this came up that the brother wanted to go like help and be in the army, every single time it was like the worst scenes in the movie because it just made no sense. It makes no goddamn sense. Just like,
why? Where does this come from? Like, there's nothing about his character that says that he's this type of person.
Yeah, and even though I would buy that this would develop over time if there was some sort of long like conflict going on, but the aliens arrived and attacked, and this is like the same day or the next day. Like there's like he should still be in shock and just terrified of everything right now. This should not be.
There are scenes where he goes like into a trance, like catatonic, while he's watching, and his dad's like screaming in his ear, and he's like, "No, I'm just gonna stare."
He acts like he's someone who. Like the war's been going on for 10 years and his parents were killed at the start of the war, so now he's like determined to be a part of it. Like that's what it feels like.
Or like, I don't know, maybe it's like you hear about soldiers who were shamed for not joining, or like people were like World War One, adults or like women saw like young men walking around, they're like, why are you not in the army helping us fight or whatever? And they're like, well, I'm only 16. Like, that didn't stop my 16-year-old or whatever. Like, stuff like that. But I don't know. He just seems like such a different type of character than that. Like, there's nothing about him that says I need to be proactive, because all he does is like listen to music in his bedroom and I don't know, like sometimes play catch with his dad.
Yeah, when he's forced to play catch with his dad, and they intentionally start throwing it so hard at each other to hurt each other's hands that Tom Cruise puts it through the window. Well, that kind of shows how much of a shitty dad he is, though, is that, okay, I get the angsty teenager being a dick here, but the fact that he tries to keep... It basically, it's as if they're both teenagers and he's trying to one-up each other. I'm like, you're the dad, you're supposed to be the one that says, no, stop being immature. But no, instead he starts trying to lob it back just as hard as he is. They're like, what are you trying to take off his head?
Yeah, until his son just dodges the ball and lets it go through a window. That was fun.
Yeah. So at the house anyway, and they go in the basement, which ended up being a really good idea by Tom Cruise actually. Once the events of the night play out, and also, we should also mention Tom Cruise has a gun. He got a gun out of a lockbox before they left his place, and he's kind of hiding that on him. But there's a lot of lights and shaking in the middle of the night, and everyone gets scared, and it's a pretty effective little sequence where you don't really know what's going on. You just hear a lot of noise. Like, you think it might just be the aliens, might just be the tripods.
But it does seem different, yeah.
Yeah. It's not until the morning when he gets up, and what I loved about this is when he comes out through the house and half the house is missing. The way it plays is that he comes up the stairs, and then you don't see that anything's missing yet. You just see the wind hitting his hair, right? And it's like it's almost like it's turned into like a sitcom set where the front's just missing, and then it's not until the camera pulls back that you see like, oh no, this is just complete destruction. There's an airplane wheel there, and there's like, you know, a bit of fuselage over there. And
Yeah.
you know,
They got a real 747. Like, they bought it from the airplane graveyard and had to like chop it up into 3 chunks in order to, you know, ship it to where they needed it to go, and that's why it's chopped up. And now if you want to see that, you can go to Universal Studios Hollywood, and they have that whole set just right there. You drive through it on the Hollywood tour. It's pretty cool to see in person, and it's enormous. I mean, the scale is represented pretty well in this shot too, though.
oh
It's
yeah,
cool. I mean, there's nothing that beats practical, you know, sets like that.
yeah. I don't think you actually realize how big airplane wheels are until there's someone standing next to them, and it's like, oh, the wheels are that big. Shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a fun bit of set design, I guess, if you want to call it that. I mean, they're outside,
Yeah.
but like, you know, they dress the street with a plane, you know. So,
It's cool.
but of course, this is where the reporters show up, and she's like talking to him, and he's asking questions. He's like, "Oh, they're all over the planet." Because at this point, Tom Cruise thinks there's only one. It's not until she says that there's, you know, they're in different cities. He's like, wait, there's more than one? It's like, shit.
Yeah.
But the part where I thought I got really egregious, though, is when she pulls out like a videotape and says, here, watch this, and like slows down the footage so that you can see in the lightning that there's something riding the lightning down into the ground to where the devices,
Yeah.
the tripods are
And
already
it's
there.
something that we've already sort of speculated, because when Tom Cruise was driving, I know he has a character name, I don't remember it. When Tom Cruise was driving
Yes.
his kids in the van, he was kind of talking to himself, mumbling like, I think they came down in the lightning. Like the machines were buried already, but something came down in the lightning to operate the machine. And now we get like the confirmation of that. But I don't think we really needed it. Like, I like the speculation still.
It's like a 5-minute section. It's just such a generic, cheesy, cliche movie scene, and I'm like, you don't need this. This is dragging it down.
Yeah, I think everything from here kind of, I don't know, like, it's okay. There are some good scenes still, but even the bad scenes have like some good stuff in them. It's just it's not as tight. Like, the first half of the movie I think is really tight. It's a really tight disaster film.
Yeah. So they eventually get the car taken from them. We have the angry mob scene, and there was kind of like a hint of the angry mob stuff towards the end of the original movie. So they've got it in here to a point.
I like this scene too.
This scene, I like most of it, actually. I think there's like 1 or 2 bits that are kind of weird to me, in the sense that, so basically, like, no one else has got a working car, so this mob kind of, like, you know, grabs the car and, like, you know, is around it, and they actually pull everyone out through the windows, and this, except the daughter, Dakota Fanning, still in the back of the car.
Yeah, I think she's the only one who had her seatbelt on.
Yeah, so
Oh, that might not be true, but she was harder to get to, I guess. I don't know.
she was in the middle. She was in the middle of the back, so she wasn't as, you know, there.
But the scene where, like, someone puts a hole in the windshield and then they're like clawing at the glass to open it up, I'm like, oof, it's like a zombie film.
It's very visceral, yeah. The question, I mean, I guess it just answers itself, because people are the worst and just stupid, like, yeah. But there is this kind of weird idea here where I thought to myself, yeah, okay, what if you get the car though? There's like 50 people. Like, what are you going to do with it? Like, there's 50 of you. You know, what's your plan? Of course, there's no plan, and of course, when Tom Cruise pulls out his gun to sort of get the mob back again, a second guy has a gun, and
Yeah, this is America. There probably should have been a lot more guns.
yeah, and insists that he's going to take the car, and Tom Cruise just begs that he can get his daughter out, and he's like, yeah, sure. But of course, another guy picks up the gun that Tom Cruise threw down when he was being held up, and as the car's going away slowly, you just hear gunshots, and clearly, the two people with guns are, the one guy shot the driver, and he's going to try and take the car, but nothing's happy. Everything's crumbling. Society is crumbling, and people are just fighting for the one lifeline they think they can get.
Yeah.
Which, of course, is then shown even more so with the boat scene, which is pretty soon after this. Because we get
the mob scene was really good. It was really tense, and it just shows the ugliness of humanity sometimes and disasters. And I think we saw the scene coming when he said we have the one working van in this area, and people are going to want it. But I like the scene still.
No, I did too. I think I almost wish there was more kind of a gradual escalation to it.
It happens really quickly, yeah.
Yeah, where they drive. It's not even so much that I want more in this scene itself. Just like, I don't know, like maybe the hints of like people starting to act, selfish and violent or something, like like the idea that this loot mentality, this mob mentality, was kind of building. Maybe like a sort of less extreme encounter before this to sort of get us there in a couple of steps. I don't know, but I mean, it's a minor complaint. I'm not, because the scene is actually pretty well done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we need that, because for the most part, they're just driving through empty land until they get to some kind of city or some kind of area where people are all crowding into, I think because the ferry is nearby. And then once they get there, that's when the mob happens.
Well, just write a scene where they're not going through empty land.
The movie's pretty long.
Cut out the reporter bit. I don't know. Your counterpoint to what I said was, well, they're doing this, and I'm like, well, just don't write it that way. Write a scene in where it's not that.
Yeah, but the scene is fine. Like, I don't think we need anything gradual.
Okay, fine. We'll move on. Right. Oh dear. The boat scene comes up next. There's a weird bit here where Tom Cruise meets someone that he knows who's got her own kid there, and I guess it's kind of to make us care a little bit when they can't get on the boat. But ultimately, I don't know how much it really added to the scene itself. But the gist here is that everyone's trying to get onto this ferry, and everyone's calm and they're getting on sort of slowly. But of course, eventually some tripods are kind of, coming, and it becomes this mob thing where the people on the boat are like, okay, we have to just move now if we've got any chance of surviving. And they bring up the what do you even call it, the bit, the sort of the ramp that sort of goes up to form the back wall of the ferry, the drop bridge, the drop ramp, the drop. I don't know.
I don't know boats, even though I lived on one for like 3 years.
Yeah, you're in a goddamn Navy. You should know what this is called. Anyway.
I don't know. I wasn't a boatswain's mate.
So.
The bridge?
It's not the bridge. The bridge is where the captain and the controls
are. The bridge
are.
of the boat?
Don't make this more complicated than it needs to be, Tara. Come on now.
It's probably the engine room. The mast?
Oh, you'd be such a dick right now. Oh, okay, so now our big scene, lots of swimming. I mean, literally the boat kind of topples on top of Tom Cruise and that as they're in the water, and they have to sort of go down and sort of swim and yada yada yada. Big disaster scene, because obviously they think they're safe on the boat, but then there's a tripod in the water, which makes them tip. It's the whole thing.
See all the bodies in the water.
Yep.
That's how they get in the water.
Yep. We have to assume this happened to another boat earlier on. Yes.
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 Upriver.
Upriver. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, after this, they kind of get to the point where there's just like soldiers and stuff fighting on a hill, and this is right before the Tim Robbins section. But this is when the brother decides to join the army. Where he just he can't be held back. Like he's like there's a lineup of soldiers and like troops and vehicles and stuff in the hill, and they're all firing into the distance, and he's like, I have to go be with them, and he just runs, and Tom Cruise has to leave Dakota Fanning like by a tree. He's like, no, you stay here, don't move, and he has to go and tackle the son. He's like, no, what are you doing? You can't do this. And the weirdest part of this scene to me, and what makes it really, really bad, is that the scene kind of ends with the son saying like, look, I need to do this, you have to let me do this. And Tom Cruise is basically like,
he's Steve Trevor said, huh?
And Tom Cruise is like, yeah, okay. Like, what? No, you wouldn't let your teenage son go and just run off with the army. Like, I mean, what does he think is going to happen? They're going to hand him a helmet and like a gun and just be like, all right, you're with us now, son.
Yeah, it's so strange. I mean, we see the son like help people get onto the boat. Like he has like a moment of trying to be a hero. And then he follows it up with just, I'm going to abandon my father and my kid sister and join a losing battle because of reasons.
Yes. Once again, it's not really much of a war. It's more of just an invasion and decimation that it is.
Yeah, like it's not like the army or National Guard, whoever we're watching. It's not like they've made any progress. Like, we don't see them actually take anything down.
Well, no, because they actually tell us that they have force fields. We don't get to see it really that much. We get to see it a little bit later with a grenade that Tom Cruise throws, but we don't have the scenes like the original where the army are shooting and firing missiles at them.
You don't have the glass thing over the model.
Well, but like you said, so the brother has the moment where like there's people hanging off the boat, and he climbs up to help them on, and Tom Cruise kind of is watching, and he's almost like impressed. He's like, oh, my son's kind of a hero, and I guess that's supposed to justify why he's willing to let him go during this scene. But I'm like, look, it doesn't matter how much of a hero he is. If this is your 17-year-old son, you're not going to just let him do this. But to me, it almost played
not when you have your sister there too, or your daughter there too, and you need help with her.
The funny thing is, it's because of that, because I didn't buy the good reason to let him go. All I could think is the only reason why he's going to let him go is because he's going to keep trying to do this, and it's going to be actually a detriment to their survival. And the best way to help save his daughter now is to just not have to be burdened with trying to keep him on a leash the entire time.
That might have been like an interesting angle.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, okay, well, I'll just save one of you then. The one that I can pick up.
The one who's not as mean to me.
Yeah. The one that doesn't break my window. Steal my car.
Oh dear. So they're running away from the tripods. Everything, chaos is happening. There's actually like a couple who almost take Dakota Fanning. They don't believe that her dad's just over there, and they think she's on her own, so they're going to take her. Yeah. Well intentioned, don't get me wrong. It's not that the woman's trying to kidnap her. She just genuinely thinks this little girl's in danger and on her own. But which I guess works. It kind of goes to what I just said, where he's kind of picking which one he has to save, because he has to go back to her. But I don't know, it's just like everything with the son wanting to go and help with the fight is just so weird.
It is. It's just it's unfortunate. Like I think a lot of this movie, because so many of the scenes are really, really good, I think this movie has a lot of potential to be like a really great adaptation of this story, but it's just the little things like this that are, I don't know, they're just tough to comprehend. It's not like in like Starship Troopers or Star Wars, where
the main character wants to go join up and help fight, and knows it's like, no, he's going to go join and go through training. He's going to go join an established organization that'll accept him. This isn't that. This is how he just wants to run off and join the literal soldiers who are running around in front of him.
Yeah, he wants to be like a teenage mercenary.
He thinks he can just be tagged in like that. It's that.
Yeah, here's a uniform and a gun.
Yeah, tag me in,
Go
coach.
kill some aliens.
Oh dear. So this is when Tim Robbins is like, hey, come in here. So they go into Tim Robbins' basement, and we get a very extended sequence down here. Actually, there's like we spent like 20 minutes or something with that.
Yeah,
down here.
It feels long too.
Yeah, because there's a whole section where he's just quiet and they're talking to each other. And Tim Robbins says a couple of crazy little things, but it's like, okay, he's a bit kooky, but whatever. Because he's kind of like almost like the old version of the brother, the son. Because he's like, nah, we got to fight back. We got to kill him. We got to kill the aliens.
Only he has a plan, and he's got insider knowledge of how he can defeat them, and it's all just loony stuff.
Yeah, it almost feels like he's supposed to represent like racists or whatever, like, people who, after 9/11 were very like anti-immigration and then like, anti-Muslim and all that kind of thing. It almost feels like it's not so much that I think it jives with what's actually happening in the movie Alien plot wise, but just the way he speaks and the way he's, we're going to win this time, and everything he says kind of feels like he's kind of fitting into that kind of mold.
Yeah, you're right.
And given that we have,
I heard he's a combination of 3 different characters from the original book.
Okay.
But I don't really know. Like they must have run into like a prepper and then like a crazy conspiracy theorist guy and someone else, and they just made them all one person.
Yeah, and maybe my mind's just going there because it's got all those post 9/11 parallels anyway. That's what he's coming across as, but.
I mean, the first shot of the movie, well, once you get past the Morgan Freeman, is just New York City without the towers.
Yeah. So then, of course, things get a little bit more creepy, a little bit more dangerous. He's talking to Dakota Fanning, behind Tom Cruise's back, and they're about to kind of fight, maybe even. But of course, noises happen and tripods are around. And eventually, this is where we get the scene where the big eye comes in and like looks around, and we have
Cobra.
We have them kind of ducking and like hiding, and this is all well shot. Like, the actual tension of this stuff is pretty good.
Oh yeah, it's good.
And tricking it with the mirror, for a little bit, and then,
it's very Raptors in the kitchen.
Actually, that's very. You're right. See, this is why Spielberg's filmography is not as good after the mid-90s, because he'd done everything by that point, and now he's just repeating things. But he so they kind of survive, and after the eye, some actual aliens come in, and they're kind of like looking around, and there's like 4 of them actually, because I was hard to keep track of how many there was during the scene, but it was when they were leaving you could clearly see there was 4 of them.
Yeah, like 4 of them leave.
So, that was the thing.
But I mean, it's during this scene that when the aliens show up that Tim Robbins like wants to do something, and he doesn't want to make any noise, and that leads to the following scene where as soon as the aliens leave, like he still wants to do something, is this where we get the blood?
Yeah, the blood veins, all the weird like strains and vines that are like appearing, all these red vines that the aliens are like growing everywhere, are actually made of human blood. Yeah, and like the blood like sets him off into a crazy frenzy thing where Tim Robinson's trying to like bury something in the back, but he's mumbling like super loud and he's starting to shout, and then Tom Cruise has to make the decision to murder a man. One thing that I really liked in the scene though, before the actual murder part, is when the eye or whatever is going around, and Tim Robbins has a shotgun, and he's like slowly cocking it, like really as quietly as he can. I do like the added element of this where Tom Cruise has to try and stop him from doing anything, because he knows that if he tries to fight, that they're just going to get killed. There's no point in trying. So that added an extra layer to the menace. It wasn't just that they were hiding from the alien. It was also, oh, we have to stop the crazy man from trying to do a one-man, like, you know, attack.
Yeah, you're right. That was really good. Plus, you got the perspective from Dakota Fanning, who's looking at one half of the room with her dad fighting with this crazy guy, and then the other half of the room you see the alien searching around, and it was good.
Yeah, all that stuff was good. And then the actual murder thing, I mean, he could have theoretically just knocked him out, right? He didn't necessarily kill him.
Well, that's more of like a movie thing, right? Like, you can knock somebody out. How do you knock someone out without killing them? I know it happens in movies, but it actually doesn't really happen that often, right?
It doesn't, no, but I'm just... Because we don't see what happens. It's intentionally behind the door, so I guess it's whatever we want it to be. Because what he really needs to do is incapacitate him so he doesn't try to stop them from leaving or, you know, cause them any more trouble, right? So, like, I mean, he could, you know, punch him a bunch of times, then break his legs or something. I don't know. Like...
Without him screaming?
I mean, that's true, okay. Now, admittedly, he probably punched him a few times, then strangled him till he died. I mean, that's probably the actual... you know, occurrence behind the...
I just assume strangle.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, that's probably that. It's probably that. So...
It is a PG-13 movie, though, so we don't really know.
Yeah.
But the way he sits on the stairs after, it's kind of like he has, like, a really dark moment.
Yeah, I feel...
Just needs to, like... collect himself after realize who he is now.
Joey kind of hurts that actually. Joey, when I was talking about the earlier scene with the mob, right, and now this is kind of an extension of that, where I feel like, okay, I get what it's doing here. I understand why it's doing this beat where he has to kill this person and he's making this tough choice that he needs to do it. But something feels a little bit missing from it, right? Joe, what I think is actually hurting these scenes in this movie is that I've since this came out and before this viewing, I have seen The Road, which is a movie about how awful everyone else you're going to run into is, and just how absolutely terrifying and depressing and morbid that movie is, with like how bad like it is, the condition. Did you see The Road? Have you seen that?
I've seen parts of it. It was one that I kept catching on TV, but I never could catch it from the beginning. Well,
it's science fiction, so we will totally do it at some point.
Yeah.
But you know, because that movie is like a hard R of depression, of like just how bad the world is and how bad the people are. And maybe this movie could have used just a little extra dose of something so that, like, the decision to kill this man wasn't as, again, sudden, I suppose. And maybe that's part of the point. Maybe the part of the point is that these things have rushed up on him and he has to make this call right now. Like, he's just realized this in the moment. So I get that. I don't know if I was ready from a film, like, escalation point of view, if I was quite at he used to kill someone in a one-on-one fight.
I wonder if it would have been better if they got somebody who wasn't Tim Robbins, like more of a no-name kind of guy, or someone who I could buy better as crazy.
Sure.
Because I don't know if I really bought his crazy very much, and maybe it was just because I recognize him so well.
It might be, because I just see Andy Dufresne, because that's like the one big thing that I know Tim Robbins from, for the most part.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is what it is. They get out the thing, though, and... well, I say they get out, I mean, Dakota gets snatched by an arm and is taken into this net thing underneath the tripod. And Tom Cruise gets this belt of grenades off of one of the dead soldiers and tries to throw a grenade, doesn't work, but gets his attention. You know, this is where we see the force field, because he tries to throw the grenade and it just kind of explodes, you know, a meter too far. And he gets nabbed and he's in a little cage with her, and they're dangling, because this is like right under the top of the tripod, so this is like, you know, a good 30-40 feet in the air, or whatever it might be, maybe even taller. And there's, what do I call this? It's an ass. It's an asshole. There's an asshole underneath the tripod at the top of, you know, like above where they are. There's a sphincter that's sucking people in. There's like a tentacle that comes out and grabs people and then sucks them into the sphincter. And it grabs Tom Cruise, and he's got a belt of grenades though. So he, they're all trying to hold on to him so he won't be taken, but he goes inside willingly with the grenades. He comes back out, and this takes down the tripod. This is the only tripod that we take down the whole movie before they start dying themselves. Is with the one that's blown up from the inside, which makes sense. I can't really fault this.
Yeah, and I think the sphincter part makes it like more believable, because we know like inside it's probably all organic. It's not like just a machine or this skeleton of metal inside as well. So it seems like, yeah, of course it's going to be more vulnerable because it's in the inside, but also if it's something organic there, then it can, it has weaknesses like organic material would.
Yeah. Although it does look quite nasty when they fall, because the little pod with all the people in it falls in like water, but it's like water that's like full of branches, and I'm like, damn, if you land in that wrong, you're dead. Like,
definitely.
But I mean, this is basically the big climax of the movie, barring because it's right after this that they get to Boston. We cut to them like arriving at Boston, and they're going through, and there's already like a tripod that's down, and they're kind of like, he's asking the soldiers like, hey, what happened? And he's like, I don't know, it was doing erratic movements and then just sort of keeled over earlier. And then another tripod shows up, which is similarly kind of going through some weird erratic movements, and it's kind of dangerous for a bit, and there's some round around. It's after this we get basically Tom Cruise notices that there's birds landing on it, so they're like, hey, the shield's down. Like, the shield's not there anymore. So they're able to actually fire some rockets and take it down, and they completely wreck a building in doing so, because the thing falls through the whole building.
Whatever, the whole world is wrecked.
Yeah. And this is where we get the sort of classic sort of remake scene of the hand, falling out of the ship, and like seeing the hand die. I thought they kind of ruined that a little bit by the camera then going up and seeing the face afterwards. I'm like,
I thought so too.
Yeah, it's like, no, just
why not just stick on the hand?
Yeah, too much movie. Calm down. I guess you must have been happy though they kept away from the RGB eye thing, the lights.
Yeah, that's true. Although I do think the design of like the alien heads looks an awful lot like the swan ships from without the cobra head.
Yeah, I can see that.
Maybe that was their little like homage.
I can see that. So he gets basically to wherever the wife is with her parents, and we get the big dramatic reunion as she runs out and hugs her daughter, and he's walking slowly up to the house, and god damn, that engine's loud, and and we have the shot from behind, because it doesn't reveal him from the front. It's like from behind there's someone else there who comes down and comes towards them, and then we see it's the son, the oldest, the brother is there, and he finally hugs Tom Cruise, because the movie started with him refusing to hug Tom Cruise. When he first came out the car at the start, he wouldn't hug him. He hugs him at the end. Arc complete.
He keeps calling him dad over and over again.
Yeah.
And we get to see the grandparents who were the stars in the last movie we watched.
There you go. Yeah, what a nice way to include them. So not only did he just run off and like go to fight with the army, he actually instead
as soon as he ran over the hill, by the way, I don't know if we mentioned it, but like the whole hill caught on fire and exploded, and then a big tripod came out from the other side, so we just assumed he died instantly.
So not only did he run off with the army, and then, survival or not, he actually made it to the mum before Tom Cruise and Dakota Fanning did. Like, what exactly was he doing in this time? Did he just sort of change his mind?
He wasn't hanging out in a barn or in the basement of some weirdo's house.
Yeah, but
he is still like really filthy, so it kind of implies that he just got there also.
Like, I mean, you could argue that once because it's not even like everyone knows the tripods are being defeated. Like, we know that one fell over in the area, because again, communications are down. It's not like people are on communication with each other. So it's not even like we can say, oh, he realized that the war was ending, so he just went home. like it's been too quick for that. I don't know. Everything with the teenage son in this movie, with joining the army, the way he leaves the movie, the way he comes back miraculously, all of it is the worst part of the movie.
It really is, yeah.
None of it makes any goddamn sense.
I like the baseball throwing scene.
Sure, yes. The baseball throwing scene is fine. Perfectly fine.
And Dakota Fanning does yell and scream a lot in this movie, but she's not really that irritating. Like, I still buy that she's just a little girl who's really scared.
Yeah, like I said, there was that one at the side of the road where she was yelling as the other two were fighting, which did feel kind of annoying and just whiny, but like otherwise, yeah, it always made sense, and she was always kind of on point. And I don't know if I've came across as too negative, because I actually do think the movie's solid in a lot of places. I think the overall look is good.
Yeah.
I think the action is typically, the suspense is typically good, so, which these are the things that matter, because that's what most of the movie is. It's just
I think it's a pretty solid disaster film, and I like that it comes from that perspective instead of the war movie that we got with the last one.
Yeah, even though it's called War of the Worlds.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, to be fair though, I would critique the book more than the movies for that. The title, while it sounds cool, isn't really actually that accurate to what the movie or the story is.
Unless you consider Mother Earth the second army.
Yeah. So yeah, Morgan Freeman's. Oh, pardon me. Morgan Freeman's narration comes back in, and like the original movie, it's actually the small life forms, the germs, the bacteria, all that stuff that killed the aliens and saved the day. Although, I mean, there was a lot of implied destruction in the first one, but in this movie, it feels like millions of people have been killed already. Like, they have wiped out like half the population of the planet at least.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, they were just vaporizing people left and right as soon as they showed up, and it's been like days.
And so all that red weed is made out of blood, and it rains blood everywhere. So I mean, that's a lot of blood.
Yes, and then it all goes to dust as well. Tom Cruise picks it up, it goes grey, and it just sort of dusts in his hand, the red vines. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, that's the first sign that they're dying.
Yep. So I don't know. It's just, I'd say it's a good movie, if not a great one. And I own it on Blu-ray, bizarrely, and I hadn't watched it yet on my disc.
Did you watch any bonus features?
I haven't yet. There's quite a lot on here actually, though. I think when this was on DVD, I think the extras were on a second disc. So it's like a full 2 hours of making of stuff or something like that. Which now, because it's Blu-ray, you can just fit it on the one disc, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff on here. This was one of these ones where this used to be really common, where you would get like a 3 for 20 or 5 for 30, and there'd be like 2 that you really want. It's it's actually cheaper to get a third one to get the deal than it is to just buy the 2 that I want. So I'll get a third one, and this is one of many in my collection that are the third one in those sorts of situations where I remembered kind of liking that. Yeah, sure, I'll have it. Yeah,
I haven't watched this since the theater, and I still think it's a good movie. Like, it's definitely a fun disaster film, and like the tense scenes in it are really good, and it's still Spielberg. Like, he knows how to do those kind of scenes, and he's good with kids, so you're getting good kids.
I do think it's one of his better movies from like the 2000 onwards, because I think Spielberg's career since then has been a little more spotty and for the most part kind of dull. I
don't know. I like Bridge of Spies, and I like Lincoln. I know you don't.
Yeah, Lincoln bored the absolute ever piss out of me. But like, I remember Catch Me If You Can being not bad. The Terminal was enjoyable enough.
Terminal is a odd one for him, but it's a fine little like Tom Hanks showcase.
Yeah, but none of these really compare to me to like his golden age, like his.
Yeah, there's no Jaws.
No Jaws, Jurassic Park, Raiders of the Lost Ark, like all these biggies. Hey Garrus, what are you doing here? You little menace. Yes. Kitty cats want to invade the podcast. Off you go, cat. All right. So, yes, but no, I mean, I think it's a solid enough movie. What's funny to me watching it again now is like just how like when we were in the 2000s, I didn't really think the 2000s had a feel, but like when you go back and watch the movies, like they were this much later. We're actually just at the start of the 20s now. We're you know, we're in another decade beyond that. And watching this now, I'm like, yeah, this feels like a mid-2000s movie. And I'm like, oh, there is a feeling to that. There's a feeling to these movies from this era.
Yeah, I guess there is like a post 9/11 theme going on with a lot of war films, and I think we get a lot of war films after 9/11 for a little while. And this is definitely one of them. Even though it's a disaster movie, but it's still shot like a war film. Yeah, like the handheld, like you said. And I still like it. I still think it's a fun watch, and the scenes alone are really good. I guess the overall movie is it's better than it's between good and great. I think it has a lot of potential to be great if it just fixed a couple of things, but oh well, it's the movie we got.
Yeah,
I do like it more than the one that we watched, the original one.
Yeah, I might be inclined to agree with that. Not by like a huge margin. I think there's obviously stuff in the original that has more charm than this one does. But the raw kind of like actual excitement, and again, one of the big complaints I had about the original was that there was not really characters to latch onto. And this at least attempts that. I don't know if it's like 100% successful necessarily, but it does attempt that and tries to. So, you know, that's what it is. Tom Cruise runs from things, which is something that Tom Cruise loves to do.
Always fun.
Yeah, so, you know, that's what it is. So, War of the Worlds 2005. Tara, what are you rating it?
I really want to give the movie an 8. I don't know if it deserves a full 8. It's definitely 1 point off for the son character. he deducts a full point, and I think the other problems are another point. So I still think it's really fun. It's a really successful disaster film. The set pieces are good. There's just some problematic scenes with the exposition and just some of the character decisions, and but for the most part, like, you're gonna have a good time watching it. So I'll go 7.5. It's 7.5.
Interesting. So you think this is better than the original, but notably you gave it the same rating.
Did I give that one a 7?
I gave it a 7. You gave it 7.5.
I guess I have to give it an 8 then. I want to give it an 8.
Yeah, so I've exposed your bed of lies.
I said I wanted to give it an 8. I just don't know if it deserves it, but I do like it more than the last one. So yeah, I'll give it an 8.
There you go. Solid logic. No, I mean, I think it's shot very well. I like that it has a distinct feel to it. It is very intense in places, and I think it's very sort of up close and intense as well. You always feel like you're going through the movie from a very narrow viewpoint. Now, admittedly, when it comes to movies that focus on just like one like normal family in the middle of like some sort of alien invasion, not my favorite. I have, and you know what? I don't know how people feel about this movie now, but like I'd have to give it to Signs if I'm comparing. Now, obviously, it's not an action like disaster movie; it's a very different movie, but I had the same kind of mentality of like, no, we're not going to like cut to like the White House and like, you know, soldiers and like people making decisions. We're just going to stay with the family the whole time from their perspective.
Yeah, Signs is pretty good.
So, but this offers a very sort of action-packed take on it. Like you say, it's very much a war movie and how it's shot, and I think in that sense it's very effective. Some of the character stuff doesn't work for me amazingly, but at least they did try. Obviously, the brother being the real sticking point of, no, this guy's a dick and he makes no sense. And why is he miraculously alive at the end when he really should be dead? I
think it would have been pretty ballsy if they actually killed him off right away. Kind of cool.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the ending of him coming back is much like the exposition scene that I was complaining about, where they're very like Hollywood cheesy moments that shouldn't really be there, but they are. And because this movie almost feels like it's desperately trying to not be cheesy Hollywood the rest of the time, those two moments really stick out as being really Hollywood cheese.
Yeah. Would you rate it?
I would give it... I'll give it 7.5. I'll go up 0.5 like you did.
Half a point for Spielberg.
Yeah, half a point for Spielberg.
You did it.
So, yeah, that's it though. I mean, as much as I'm rating them fairly closely, like, what makes each one good is very different. Like, they both have different strengths and weaknesses. That is War of the Worlds 2005. I can tell you what's coming next time. We are doing a newer film next time, which we know very little about, but we're going to tackle Code 8, which stars the Amell brothers, and might end up being good, might end up being terrible. Who knows? Maybe it'll be another Captive State, or
don't know what this is.
Yeah. So isn't that kind of exciting though, to not know, to just go in blind, because you never know what you might get.
Yeah, it's true. I did that with a couple movies on the show so far, and I don't think I gave them good ratings. So.
Well, you loved The Day the Earth Caught Fire. That was.
Actually, that's true. That was really good.
Yeah.
I gave that a 9.
Garrus, be quiet, cat. I'm trying to outro the show. So, yes. So next time we'll do Code 8. So you can look forward to that. You can, of course, let us know what you thought of The War of the Worlds in the comments below. You can like and subscribe. You can ding the bell on YouTube. You can support us in a couple of different ways. You can rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts, give us 5 stars and a nice little review. It helps more people find us that way. You can support us by sharing the podcast out on social media, or tell your friends about us. I'm sure they'll be so happy that you did when they hear how adequate this show is. It's fine. It's a fine show. We mentioned
I give it a 7.5.
We mentioned Patreon earlier. Of course, you can go to Patreon if you want to support us financially, get some bonuses for your troubles. But of course, you can look for other Male Fuzz TV content. Tara, why don't you promote something from Male Fuzz TV?
Well, it's the beginning of a new year for us, so we have a bunch of countdowns. If you want to check out our top 25 films, sci-fi films of the decade, you can check that out. I think we have our top 50 from every Mild Fuzz, or most of them anyway, crew member is coming out. Top 50 horror films of the decade, plus some end of the year stuff, right?
Yeah. And as every Male Fuzz TV person that did a top 50. It's the whole 5. The whole 5.
Yeah, so if you haven't checked those videos out, check them out.
All 5 Power Rangers united.
Whoa. I'm the red one.
No, you're the pink one, obviously, because the original Japanese Super Sentai that it's based on, the Yellow Ranger was a guy, so it works out perfectly, right? It works out perfectly.
Yeah, but the red one was the leader until Tommy got there. But
Tommy's better than the red one. Green's better than the red.
Well, green is my favorite color, but the pink one's always the worst one.
How? She's like every boy in my generation's first crush. Like, don't you diss the Pink Ranger, damn it.
That's not why I want to be the Pink Ranger, though. I want to be the red one because I want people to take me seriously.
People take Kimberly seriously. She's got her gymnastics.
Didn't even break a nail.
She's like that in episode 1. I'll grant you she's like a ditzy bimbo in episode 1, but like not for much longer. Like,
okay,
what about Billy? You can be the nerd.
Fine, I'll be the Pink Ranger. Well, wait, which one's a pterodactyl?
That's pink.
Okay, yeah, you're right, I should be the pink one.
Oh, see there, you got the good dinosaur. You're happy now.
Yeah, although the red one's a T-Rex, but whatever.
Yeah, I guess I'm red by default because I'm the leader, but he's not actually my favorite, even of the original 5. I have to say.
Are you red leader? Standing by.
Are you trying to turn us into a Star Wars reference? How dare you? How dare you? I'm done with Star Wars. Me and Star Wars have broken up. So, I'm serious.
I know you're sad about it. I'm sorry. I'll give you your space.
I'm done.
You need time to heal. Star Wars is all done. I'm sorry.
Rise of Skywalker was terrible.
You're just heartbroken right now. I know.
Mandalorian was just fine, but like, if you don't care about Star Wars, there's nothing to care about in it. I'm done. I'm done with Star Wars.
I know. Don't worry, Mandalorian will be back next year. You'll get me more Baby Yoda, and you'll finally figure out what that black saber is all about. I know you're excited.
Oh, do I ever not give a shit about that stupid saber?
Sounds like you need a nap.
Baby Yoda getting punched was okay though. That was a nice scene. Yeah, I knew that'd stop the jokes. I knew that'd break the streak. Yeah. Haha.
Bye, everybody.
I know how to make people hurt. Yes. Baby Yoda sucks. Gizmo's better.
Hard disagree.
Gizmo is better. Gizmo is the original Baby Yoda, and everyone knows it to be true. So, yes. That is, what was I saying? Yes, that is us. So, check out all the top lists and things. Thank you very much for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching science fiction movies, guys. And computer... At salsa.
Yum, yum.